Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back, everyone. 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone, live from Rolla J Studios in beautiful Portland, Oregon, where I have just had the best week ever. That's right, the best week ever. Evidence, Exhibit A, I should say. Exhibit A, we legalized marijuana in Oregon. That's pretty damn, I mean, that right there makes it best week ever, right? We legalized marijuana in my home state. Best week ever. Even better, we got 55.9% of the vote. I-502 got 55.7. Amendment 64 got 55.3. So we have the greatest vote for marijuana legalization in the world. Oh, that's not true, because Washington, D.C. got 69.4. But they didn't include marijuana markets, so I'm sticking with the U.S. I'm sticking with us, I should say, with Oregon at 55.9. Let's go to our phone lines. We got, I believe, Electric Bob's on the line from Arizona. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing good, and I hope to be saying the same in 2016 once we get it legalized here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just about the medical and the rec, I was thinking they should just issue, like, when you can go to a pharmacy and if you really need it, they'll issue you a discount card.
Yeah.
That's just how it should be.
That's what I think. Yeah. You know, I've heard concerns about, what the stores want to do. Some stores just want to be medical and whatever, but I'm looking at it from the consumer point of view. If I'm a sick person, what difference does it make if I go into a dispensary and get cannabis, or if I go to a pot shop and get cannabis, as long as I get the tax break? I don't know.
It's all the same in the end.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, and I have some updates about Arizona. We only need 160,000 signatures this time to get it on the ballot. Last year we needed, I think, 220 or 240 since the turnout was so bad.
Ah, because you're one of those states that pegs how many signatures you need based on the total voters in the past election.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow, that's great. So that's going to be even easier to get on for 2016.
Yeah, and we're going to have backing by MPT and Safer Arizona, so hoping to do it full force, and it's easy. There's 2.4 million and growing in the Phoenix metro area. You just have to get, 5 to 10%, I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Of the total population, and there's more than enough to go around.
I worry about Arizona because you guys have the lowest rate of passing a medical marijuana law. It was like 50.13%, just barely passed.
I remember going to vote for it and going to watch TV, and I was sitting there like, are we going to pass it? Are we going to do it? And we passed by 4,000 votes. Yeah,
4,000 votes. So why do you think in 2016 you can do better with legal?
Because that was 2016. That'll be 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of things have changed, like if it wasn't for having no money, I think Safer Arizona would have gotten a lot more signatures. I think it was just 10 signature gatherers just going out, and they got 10 to 12K, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was just 10 people. So imagine if we had 100 or 150.
Yeah, I know there's so many people that for me have come to me many times say, well, if we only get this many signatures, it's like getting signatures is a job.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
huge job.
You need paid signature gatherers. No one's going to do it for free.
Yeah, got to have that. Well, good luck on 2016. I think you guys can do it.
Oh, I'm have a mentality of we're going to pass it. I'm not taking no for an answer.
Right on, man. All right. Well, keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. Now, Speed Limit in our chat room's got some really good points regarding the opposite point of view. Why should there be two parallel distribution systems? He says, because if you're really sick, you probably don't want to be waiting in line behind some 20-year-olds getting weed before they head out to the lake. Plus, business owners should be able to have medical-only business plans. Yeah, but here's the thing: the source, the supply for these medical shops right now is the growers who've been designated by the patients, and the patients have to sign over how much of their excess the growers can then sell off or get reimbursed for from the medical side, and that has led to these growers who basically harvest patients. They try to get as many patient cards as they can to try to cover all the plants that they're growing and so forth. And it just seems to me kind of I don't know, I don't want to call it shady, but a system that's ripe for abuse of the patients. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'd love to hear more on it. Also, Speed Limit brings up the idea that the two markets will slowly diverge regarding products. Like in the recreational market, it'll be more high THC sativas, let's get high, let's party type of weed. And then on the medical side, it'll be more salves and tinctures and more high CBD or THC CBD 1-to-1 varieties and stuff like that. That might be true. That might be the case. You might have more divergence in products with two separate. But I don't know. I don't know about that because I'm of the opinion that the medical marijuana rolls are going to drop dramatically in Oregon. Right now, we got about 69,000 patients that are registered. It costs $175 to go to your clinic visit. It might be less in some places to get your recommendation letter every year or your renewal. It might be cheaper for a renewal as well. It costs $200 to get your card. And it's cheaper again if you can show that you're on like SSI or something. But for the average guy, let's say, who's paying the full price clinic visit and the full price state card at $200, that's $375. They're anticipating that an ounce is going to cost $145 after tax in the recreational side. I have to be consuming an ounce a month before I hit the break-even point on that $375 it costs me to get the card, minus the taxes I save by having the card. So I'd have to be consuming at least an ounce a month. There are patients out there I don't think who are consuming an ounce a month. However many that is, I think those are going to drop off the rolls. Those are the people who are going to say, hey, it's not even worth my time or effort or the invasion of my privacy to get a medical marijuana card because it's legal for everyone. And this isn't until 2016 we're talking about, not until 2016. But maybe, these people drop off because they have no need to get a card anymore. 8 ounces at home is fine. An ounce on the road is fine. 4 plants is fine. Going to a regular pot shop is fine for them. So as the medical side drops and there's fewer and fewer and fewer patients, that's fewer and fewer cards, that's fewer plants that these growers can grow, which means less product going to that medical side. I see the medical market shrinking and shrinking as time goes on. I wouldn't be surprised if we were left with 10,000 patients or fewer by 2020. So if that medical side shrinks and that market keeps shrinking and shrinking, there's less divergence of product. There's less diversity that's going to happen in that scenario just because there's less demand, fewer patients. I think if it were one integrated system, then the entire marijuana market is shopping at pot shops. And if one pot shop wants to differentiate itself and perhaps get a different or better clientele from the other, perhaps they do that divergence themselves. Perhaps they focus a little more. Hey, we're the shop where you can get your medical stuff. Maybe. The other thing is that under the recreational law, to ban a pot shop in your city or county, you got to have an initiative and you got to have a majority vote of the people. But right now, under HB 3460, it seems like these localities are able to ban or put moratoriums on medical pot shops. So it might be a situation where having one system would be better because those medical systems, the pot shops would all be protected under Measure 91 rather than having vulnerable medical shops that don't get 91's protection. These are theories. This is thinking it out. This is trying to figure out how this should go. And it's funny to me because I get a lot of applause from people. I get a lot of attaboys from people when I start doing this to prohibitionists. When I start poking and prodding at data and forecasts and predictions and how things will turn out, my analysis, my opinions, and my devil's advocacy is applauded and lauded. They turn this brain toward our side. Some people don't like that so much. Some people don't like it when I call into question some of our cherished talking points and some of our, sacred cows. But please, as I do this, don't ever think that I don't support medical marijuana or I don't support patients. I've been working in this field for far too long. Done too much free and pro bono type work for people, for medical marijuana. Spent too many times, too many days at hearings in Salem. Too much time working with medical marijuana patients and holding meetings for them and educating them and having them be in my family and my friends, and to have some of them even die on me to think that I don't care about medical marijuana patients. When I do this, when I think about this stuff, part of what I'm doing is to be the guy that brings this up on our side before we have to go out in public and hear it from our opponents. And if you don't think there are opponents to marijuana in general waiting to get back to that 2015 session in Salem to figure out how they're going to mess with Measure 91 and how they're going to use that to work against medical marijuana in their own special way, then you don't know much about politics. The things I'm suggesting, these are things already on the table. I'm not making it up. I'm not giving anyone ideas. I'm telling you what's going to be under discussion when we get to this next legislative session. So let's think about it now. Let's work it out amongst ourselves. And let's try to do this without demonizing anyone in the process. I'm not here to say I'm right. I just give you what I think is right, how I see things from my perspective. But I'm just one voice of many voices in the marijuana nation. So thank you for listening. Thank you for chiming in. If you want to get involved in the discussion, it's on my personal Facebook page at Radical Russ on Facebook.
Continue the conversation with Radical Russ online. Visit radicalruss.com and email radicalruss@gmail.com.
All right, got plenty more coming up here in hour 2. Next, we're going to talk about a New York Times piece on asset forfeiture. I love it that the mainstream is coming around on this subject. Bacon Dan will call in at 20 after for our Roots Monday Daily Toker Tunes. We got a premiere song from Slater Kinney. I can never say that right. Slater Kinney. Bury Our Friends coming up at 20 after. After the bottom of the hour, we'll talk about how California Democrats derailed Proposition 19 back in 2010. And will they do it again in 2016? We'll see. And how federal prohibition actually helps the emerging marijuana industry.
420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day.
Hey, what's up? This is Killer Mike, one half of Run the Jewels, and I'm telling you, November 23rd through 27th, you need to be at Cannabis Cup. I did it last year, and I got so high, I can tell you what color Jesus' furniture is. I got so high, I kissed the sky twice. I got so much enlightenment, I know Buddha's last name. Do you feel what I'm telling you right now? The people are great. You don't have to search or call your sketch-ass dealer who won't call you back. You don't have to go lurking through the hood to find good smoke. You need to get out of the country. You've been sitting on your block too long smoking weed. Get out and have an adventure. See you at Cannabis Cup, November 23rd through 27th. Yeah.
.420radio.org is proud to replay Stony Sundays with Coral Reefer from San Francisco, California. Cannabis patient and activist Coral Reefer is one of the most popular marijuana personalities on YouTube. Her Stony Sundays and News Nugs entertain and educate the audience. Catch the replays on Monday at 1 Pacific here on 420radio.org.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-6.
Welcome back, everyone. 16 after the hour. That's King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band from 1923 with the Sobbin' Blues. Of course, on second cornet in King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band was Louis Armstrong, longtime lover of Mary Warner. That's part of our new Viper Hour library. You can catch the new Viper Hour, our tribute to early 20th century blues, swing, and jazz music that chronicled the rise of our 420 culture. Every Monday at 5 and 8 a.m. and p.m. Pacific time. Coming up at 5 o'clock, you get another replay episode. Check it out. Get yourself educated with the new Viper Hour. All right, welcome back. And I wanted to bring you some video from the New York Times, which has uncovered the practice of continuing education for cops and the seminars that they are distributing to one another on how to get good stuff out of civil asset forfeiture. This is Harry S. Connolly, the city attorney from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Check this out. Speaking for local prosecutors.
And this guy drives up in a 2008 Mercedes, brand new, just so beautiful. The cops were undercover and it was like, ah. And he gets out and he's just reeking of alcohol. And it's like, oh my goodness, we can hardly wait. So he goes in the place and they refuse to serve him because he's drunk. So what he does, he pulls out his credit card and he buys drinks for everybody. And he says, I want you to know that I'm not drinking, it's for you. So he does, and our police are just excited as they can be. And he walks outside, and just as he's about to touch the car, our police officer goes, whack, you're under arrest. For what? Being drunk while driving. And he didn't have control of the vehicle. You don't have to drive a vehicle in New Mexico to control it. Sleep in it, lay on it, do whatever you want. And so we thought, damn, we got a 2008 Mercedes-Benz. This is going to go to auction. This is going to be great. We can put all of our junk out there, and this will be the big seller. And lo and behold, we finally get the facts that he didn't have control. And so we have to gulp, and back goes his car. Because it was drunk, he's had previous drunks, but we didn't wait. We should have left the door open, sat down, hello, but then we'd been all right. But so we gave it back. That's just one of the little goodies that we got.
One of the little goodies. That's the city attorney from Las Cruces, New Mexico, talking at a continuing education seminar for local prosecutors and law enforcement officials in Santa Fe on civil asset forfeiture and how not to blow it if you got something nice like a car that's sitting there. This is a pretty sick practice, and we're going to talk more about this after our 20 after break, but we'll go more into depth here. The New York Times has this great piece on the practice of civil asset forfeiture. It's in today's edition. Police use department wish list when deciding which assets to seize. Quote, don't bother with jewelry, too hard to dispose of. And computers, everyone's got one already, the experts counseled. do go after flat screen TVs, cash, and cars, especially nice cars.
You're a loony.
Hey, it's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone. Live and direct from Cascadia, the world's first legal marijuana region, where you can have an ounce in Washington and you can have an ounce in Oregon, but don't take your Oregon ounce to Washington and don't take your Washington ounce to Oregon, because that would violate federal law. It's going to be a long time before we work out all the kinks in legalization, that's for sure. We're back with Bacon Dan right after this.
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest.
Приветствую. Меня зовут Дани Денько. Мы от журнала High Times приглашаем вас в Амстердам с 23 до 27 ноября, чтобы вместить ежегодный турнир Cannabis Cup, уже 27-й по счету. Там мы сравним множество будов марихуаны и гашиша из местных кофешопов. Еще у нас там выставка товаров, семинары по выращиванию, ночные концерты и вручение премии за лучшие в мире сорты марихуаны. Билеты можно купить на сайте cannabiscup.com. Ждем вас!
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana, less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.
Are you a hypocrite? If you live a closeted cannabis lifestyle, you are. Read about 7 people living a closeted cannabis lifestyle who are on the verge of coming out in The Hypocrites by Mara K. Eaton. Available at areyouahypocrite.net. You can purchase the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, also available on iTunes. Check out Mara K. Eaton on Facebook as well. Learn more at areyouahypocrite.net.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Roots Monday, featuring the blues, country, folk, and jazz music that birthed the modern sounds we enjoy today. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 23 and a half after the hour, and as I was saying earlier, I had the best week ever. I got 55.9% out of marijuana legalization. I got 60 points out of the Boise State Broncos, and I got 55 points out of the Green Bay Packers. So for my score, I'm up around 175. Something like that for my week. We got Bacon Dan on the line, and the Bills didn't do as well. How you doing, Bacon Dan?
Yeah, I wish my Bills and my Sabres could win, but man, it's really tough being a Buffalo sports fan right now.
I guess so, man. But hey, we'll be thinking of you during the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. I'm still just amazed the fact that we had the turnout that we did for the vote. I mean, it's great. I've got family calling me from the East Coast going, "Oh my God, did you hear that your state legalized?" And I went, "Yeah, I had a part in it, man." Like,
that's right.
It's it's crazy, and life's good right now. Can't really complain. I'm really happy about this song that we're debuting today, though, I gotta say.
Yeah, some local Portland music. Tell us about the group.
All right, well, this is Slater Kinney, Carrie Brownstein's band, which everyone knows. Yes, I do have a thing for Carrie Brownstein. They have just gotten back together. They broke up for a number of years. They were considered on the top 50 list of most underrated bands of all time by Rolling Stone magazine. And it's funny, when you listen to it, they don't have a bassist. It's just 2 guitars and a drum. And so they can really go everywhere with the guitar sound. And this new song, I mean, it's just such a good song. New album comes out in January. The single dropped about a week ago. It is so perfect, and it's such a Portland sound, too. They're going to be doing a tour up the Northwest, hopefully coming here to Portland. I don't see why they wouldn't. And, yeah, it's a good time. And anybody in the Portland area, I just want to let you all know, tomorrow night, Guar is here in Portland.
We've got Guar?
Yes.
I'd have thought Herb Thrasher would have told me that first.
I know, it's scary to think that he didn't. But yes, tomorrow night, Guar, it will be a tribute to Dave Brocky, who fortunately lost his battle with addiction.
Odious.
It's going to be a good time, though. It's going to be a real good time. I'll be covered in fake blood like everybody else, so, yeah.
You know what? I might have to find my way out to that show. I really like Guar. Interested to see how they'll continue on without Odious Arungus.
Yeah, it's crazy. The new lead singer is actually the original Beefcake the Mighty. And so it's a really kind of interesting. They brought back some old characters. The Sexecutioner came back, so I'm excited to hear that. And, of course, Sleazy P. Martini is back, so, you know, that's always going to be a good time.
All right. You got Karaoke from Hell tonight?
Oh, absolutely. And I actually might have some of my coworkers show up to it, so pretty excited for that.
All right. Well, let's get to the new music. This is Slater Kinney with Bury Our Friends. Premiere here on 420 Radio.
Rain
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, the best in late 70s soul, funk, and disco. Every Thursday at 5 and 8 Pacific with 2-hour replays Friday at 10 p.m. Pacific on 420radio.org. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at
That's the great Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs with the Orange Blossom Special. This takes me back, folks. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I'm the son of a professional musician, the Rockin' Johnny B. That's right. I didn't start this nickname thing. I just was born into it. Anyway, my dad, the Rockin' Johnny B, used to play in a band called Bobby Jones and the Outlaws. Bobby Jones was a one-armed guitar player. That's right, a one-armed guitar player. He was missing his right arm at the elbow. Had a prosthetic built, and remember, this was built in like 1964, I believe. Had a prosthetic built that had a pick, guitar pick attached to the end of the hooks. And he learned how to play and pick guitar with the motion of his elbow. And if you think that's hard, you're right. And he got to be a masterful guitar player picking with a prosthetic. I remember as a kid one time, I asked Bobby what happened to his arm. And he wasn't wearing his prosthetic at the time. "Bobby, what happened to your arm?" I'm like a little kid, right? Bobby says, "Well, one day I was picking my nose and a booger bit it off." I tell you, I didn't pick my nose for like a year after that. It was pretty scary to me. A booger bit it off. Oh my God. But anyway, my dad played music with Bobby Jones and the Outlaws, and Bobby Jones' brother was Teddy Jones. Teddy Jones was a fiddle player. A damn fine fiddle player, too. And they used to do Orange Blossom specials. When I hear that tune, I always think back to my days as a young kid before school. It was like, 4 or 5 years old that this music goes back for me. So that's why you get to hear it every now and then. That's Orange Blossom Special with Flatt and Scruggs. Welcome back to Toker Talk Radio. It's 26 minutes till the top of the hour. Checking out our chat room and responding to folks. I had a question in the chat room. Who is the most popular person you've interviewed? Who is the most popular person I have interviewed? I would say just off of celebrity status, it would be Sir Richard Branson, the chairman of the Virgin Group, the billionaire who goes water skiing and rocket shipping and all that cool stuff. The guy I most want to be, Richard Branson. If I had to pick any one person, living person, maybe Sir Richard Branson. But a lot of great folks in politics that, aren't as popular, but they're meaningful to me. For example, I got to interview Governor Gary Johnson during his presidential run, and Dr. Jill Stein during her presidential run. Senator Mike Gravel, Senator Al Franken, Representative Earl Blumenauer, Representative Barney Frank, Let's see who else. Representative Jared Polis has been on the show. And then just about everybody in the reform community, from MPP, Drug Policy Alliance, NORML, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Some comedians, guys like Doug Benson and Rob Cantrell come to mind. Musicians, Master P, Styles P, and who else has been on the show musicians-wise? Justin James Bridges, and the Dirtball's been on the show from the Cottonmouth Kings. But, for me, it's about the topic, right? This is a show about marijuana and, whoever wants to come on and talk about it. So I'm as excited to talk to you when you call in live as I am to talk to Sir Richard Branson or some governor or some senator. Because to me, it's the topic that's interesting, and how many hits you get or ratings you get or money you got in the bank, while interesting, isn't my main interest. Mark Emery. Haven't had Mark Emery on the show. Didn't really get this show going until he was... Tommy Chong. Yeah, I've interviewed Tommy Chong. I forgot about that. Jack Harrer. Yeah. That's right. Ganja John was my intern for a while. So yeah, it's been a great ride. I've gotten to interview and talk with a lot of great people. So thanks for the question. I appreciate that. I want to get back to this asset forfeiture thing. Got another video from this this Las Cruces, New Mexico seminar, trying to teach these cops how best to get their asset forfeitures. And this video here is entitled "Forfeiture's Effect on Families."
It does definitely affect the families, especially those of the drunk driver, because a lot of times the statistic was brought up about the fact that a lot of people, they're using their mother or father's car, using their grandmother's car. And there's a large percentage of the population out there who doesn't understand the ordinance. Can't tell you how many people have come in and, "Oh, my hito would never do that. And I came in here before and signed a paper, but I didn't understand." And now their car's getting forfeited. And we've had to bring it back and explain it to them. It's like, "Ma'am, is this your signature? We asked you if you understood. Did you understand?" And, sometimes they plead innocence or ignorance, but it doesn't mean it's not a problem and it doesn't affect families, because it does. But where do you draw the line?
Well, apparently they draw the line at where they get their profit. And you gotta like the cop there mocking the Spanish accent there. Interesting, huh? Yeah, interesting that you'd be using the Spanish accent to talk about people who are getting their stuff forfeited, as if that would be a much more common accent to hear. Get my drift? It's impossible to know just how much assets, cash, cars, computers, flat screen TVs have been seized, what the value of that is nationwide. But under just the Justice Department's program on this, in 2001, the asset forfeitures under just the Justice Department's equitable sharing program was $407 million. $407 million. Under 2012, $4.3 billion. So in 10, 11 years, increased by a factor of 10, this policing for profit, this seizure of sometimes mom's, sometimes grandma's car, only to be made fun of by some cop in a video. In one oft-cited case, a Philadelphia couple's home was seized after their son made $40 worth of drug sales on the porch. $40 worth of drug sales. And again, probably marijuana. You got to read between the lines when you read these stories, folks, when you realize that half of all possessions arrests are for pot and 7/8 of all marijuana arrests are for possession. That when they say drug sales or drug bust, it's almost always pot. A couple losing their home because their kid sold a couple 20 bags. This is from the New York Times. Quote, In September, Albuquerque, which has long seized the cars of suspected drunken drivers, began taking them from men suspected of trying to pick up prostitutes, landing 7 cars during a one-night sting. Arkansas has expanded its seizure law to allow the police to take cash and assets with suspected connections to terrorism. And Illinois moved to make boats fair game under its DWI laws in addition to cars. In Mercer County, New Jersey, a prosecutor preaches the gospel that forfeiture is not just for drug arrests. Cars can be seized in shoplifting and statutory rape cases as well. Now, class, raise your hand if you remember what the original justification for asset forfeiture was. Anyone? Bueller? Ah, yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. It was to go after the big bad Miami Vice cocaine kingpins, remember? Go after the drug dealers. We'll go after these big bad drug dealers who are making money hand over fist, poisoning our youth with the devil's lettuce. We'll go after those big bad drug dealers and take the cars and the cash and the homes that they bought with their ill-gotten proceeds. Well, now apparently that has expanded to Johns in prostitution stings, boats, shoplifting, and statutory rape cases. Because why? See, the theory under the drug forfeitures was that drug money, illegal, dirty drug money, had been used to purchase these assets. They were ill-gotten assets, and therefore we could seize them and turn them over for money and funding and support for the police agencies that were busting those people. How do you make that justification in a statutory rape case? How do you make that justification in a prostitution case? However you may feel about prostitution, and for the record, I think it should be as legal as pot. But however you may feel about prostitution, the John who's bringing his money to the prostitute probably earned it the old-fashioned way, probably worked a job and earned it legitimately. So what justification do we have to take his cash, to take his car? What this asset forfeiture has turned into is an extrajudicial sentence, a way for the cops to punish people for their crimes without having to go through the pesky trouble of a court and a judge and sentencing and all of that. Because to these people, to almost anyone who gets affected by an asset forfeiture case, especially someone of modest means, this can be a severe punishment to their lives. Not having a car in a place like Las Cruces, New Mexico, when you need to get to work, could mean the difference between having a job and not having a job. And that could mean the difference between homelessness and non-homelessness. It can mean the difference between homeless can mean the difference between whether your kid gets a decent education or not. And whether or not it continues a cycle of dependency and homelessness. This idea is rapidly devolving. Do you remember the 1980 cartoon movie Heavy Metal? I know, talk about a left turn, right? But do you remember the movie Heavy Metal? And one of the first story was the cab driver guy, Harry Canyon, I think his name was, Harry. And he picks up the buxom redhead, and there's been some sort of shooting, and a friend of hers been killed, so he takes her into the cop shop, and John Candy voices the fat, piggy-looking police sergeant, who basically tells Harry that if he ain't got any money, the cops aren't going to solve the crime. In this science fiction universe, it's all policing, it's all privatized policing. You got to pay for your cop. That doesn't seem like science fiction anymore. Seems like now they're choosing which crimes to go after and which criminals to bust, not based on whether or not they're going to protect society any, but how much they can make off the bust. The New York Times story talks more about this. We'll come back in our next break and talk some more on this asset forfeiture subject.
Jive, marry, grifo, grass, hay. Technically, it's cannabis sativa, the common name, marijuana. She has found a crutch to see her through her difficulties instead of facing up to them and coping with them. And in time, she may be ready to try something different, something better.
Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out lushledlighting.com right now.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Woke up this morning looking for my shoes, looked behind the trunk, found the hesitation blues. Lordy, tell me how long. Lordy, tell me how long. Will I have to wait? Will I have to wait? Can I get you now? Can I get you now? Must I hesitate?
That's Willie Nelson with Asleep at the Wheel, the Hesitation Blues, some of our Roots Monday music. You can always catch a good collection of Roots Monday music at 45 after the hour during our replay hours between 10 and 2 every weekday here on 420radio.org. And if you know of any musicians or record labels would like to get exposure for their music, we've got music shows every night of the week. The Viper Hour on Mondays, Electric Bob's Boogaloo on Tuesdays, Gordon Green's Music Planet on Wednesdays, Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink on Thursdays, and the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour on Fridays. No matter what genre of music you've got, we've got a show for it here on 420radio.org. Welcome back to the show. It's 49 after the hour. We're continuing our discussion of asset forfeiture, and just wanted to finish this up with a couple of quotes from the New York Times piece. Sean D. McMurtry, the chief of the forfeiture unit in the Mercer County, New Jersey prosecutor's office, made it clear that forfeitures were highly contingent on the needs of law enforcement. In New Jersey, the police and prosecutors are allowed to use cars, cash, and other seized goods. The rest must be sold at auction. Cell phones and jewelry, Mr. McMurtry said, are not worth the bother. Flat-screen televisions, however, quote, are very popular with the police departments, end quote, he said. Quote, "If you want the car and you really want to put it in your fleet, let me know. I'll fight for it," Mr. McMurtry said, addressing law enforcement officials on the video. "If you don't let me know that, I'll try and resolve it real quick through a settlement and get cash for the car, get the tow fee paid off, and get some money for it." End quote. Prosecutors estimated that between 50 and 80% of the cars seized... Oh, great. Love it when my computer does that. Prosecutors estimate that between 50 to 80% of the cars seized were driven by someone other than the owner, which sometimes means a parent or grandparent loses their car. So someone in the chat room said, notice how the guy sounds like a fence trying to move stolen goods? Because that's kind of what they're doing. Yeah, it's legalized theft and it needs to end. There should be no asset forfeiture without a criminal charge and a conviction. And even that should only apply to those goods that were gotten through criminal means. Someone who's soliciting a prostitute, someone who shoplifted a candy bar, someone who's late with their parking tickets, whatever it might be, statutory rape, none of these things, whether you think they're crimes or they're not crimes, should be the cause for the forfeiture of one's belongings. We already have judges who can sentence people, and in the sentencing, they can fine people if that's appropriate. And certainly if someone has gathered a whole bunch of cash and expensive goods through criminal means, money laundering, fraud, whatever it might be, or drug dealing for that matter, then that maybe should be up for grabs. But what this has devolved to, this asset forfeiture, has just turned into nothing but policing for profit that only makes our country just a little less free and just.
Why are you worrying about such talk?
It's part of my job, I suppose, Mr. President. All right. Wanted to end up the show with another discussion, though. And we'll talk more about the asset forfeiture throughout the week, I'm sure. And a lot of folks are pointing out the excellent John Oliver piece on asset forfeiture. If you haven't seen that and you have access to HBO On Demand, you should check it out. John Oliver on asset forfeiture. It might be up on YouTube as well. But I did want to close with this last thought, and it was something that just kind of occurred to me the other night. And there was a story that I saw. I can't remember which website it was on, but there's a story I saw today that was talking about the Marlboro of marijuana. When will the Marlboro of marijuana start, right? When will we see the big super mega corporation of marijuana? And I pointed out how, under prohibition, each state pretty much has its own marijuana industry. The Colorado marijuana industry is separate than the Oregon marijuana industry, separate than the Washington marijuana industry, and so forth. People like Chip Keeber of Dixie Elixirs got a great product there in Colorado, is the sodas that he makes. But he can't move them across state lines to sell in Washington. If he wants to sell in Washington, he's got to start a factory in Washington and build it up there. And that got me to thinking. In a weird sort of unintended consequence, federal marijuana prohibition may be the best thing going for the marijuana industry. Now, I know we have to look past some things to make this argument work. You got to look past the marijuana prohibition, IRS 280E, where they can't deduct anything and they end up with an effective federal tax rate of 80%. You got to look at all the banking regulations that make it impossible to get checking accounts and ATM machines and all that kind of stuff. So we're not forgetting that. Federal prohibition does kind of put a monkey wrench into a lot of aspects of the marijuana business. But solely from the perspective of, oh my God, Monsanto's going to come in and take over the marijuana market. Oh my God, Philip Morris is going to come in and Marlboro-ize all the marijuana market. If you're looking at it from that perspective, federal prohibition may be our best friend. I was a guest on Terry Joyce's show the other night, and she had a guest on, a farmer, who was talking about Monsanto and talking about, pesticides and crop rotations and all these things that go way over my head. But a large part of the discussion involved Monsanto. And the show, the network it's on is kind of, on the conspiracy side of things, if you want to say, characterize it that way. So, talking about Monsanto and, the gold standard and like Ron Paul, that's like the kind of topics that might come up, right? So the Monsanto thing comes up, and they're asking my opinion about it. Now, my opinion on the possible Monsantoization of cannabis is that cannabis already survived prohibition. Cannabis survived the most powerful government on earth declaring it illegal to be uprooted and burned on sight to punish any who would grow it with long, long prison sentences, and to punish any who would possess it with criminal records and jail time. Cannabis survived Paraquat. Cannabis has survived civil wars in other countries. It's survived fumigation efforts. I mean, if cannabis can survive prohibition, I really am not too worried about Monsanto. Now, will there be big marijuana? Will there be big bulk marijuana crops? A Walmart of weed? Yeah, probably. Just like there's Budweiser. I don't drink that shit. And you won't smoke that shit, right? You and me will still be getting the quality boutique buds, right? But if there's folks out there that want to drink Budweiser or smoke whatever the equivalent is, that's fine. Great. Go ahead. But I digress a little bit. Let me get back to the topic, which is this idea that federal prohibition kind of protects us from Monsantoization. I've always said it with respect to Philip Morris, because that's always been the urban legend in the marijuana movement is, oh, Philip Morris has bought all these acres of land. They haven't, for marijuana cultivation. It's not real. And they've purchased all these trademark names and these brand names, way back in the 70s. And they've done some recently too, right? But here's the thing. Altria, the parent corporation of Philip Morris, or Monsanto, or any of these big mega global corporations can't get in on the marijuana business. They can't get in on the marijuana business because it's still Schedule I drug. It's still federally legal. And all that asset forfeiture we were just talking about, ask big tobacco companies what it's like to get your assets touched by the federal government when they're winning against you in court, right? So as long as federal prohibition exists, Monsanto has to sit on the sidelines. Philip Morris has to sit on the sidelines. And the newly emerging cannabis businesses in Colorado, in Washington, and soon to be Oregon and Alaska, have to build up at a state level. They can't be multi-state unless they set up in that state and create more jobs for that state and more tax base for that state. So we end up with a Dixie Elixirs, which is a strong brand in Colorado. And we end up with, Chiba Chews, and we end up with these companies that are building their brands, but they can't be national. They can't monopolize. They can't hold too much of the market share just because of the nature of having 4 separate economies, Oregon, Alaska, Washington, and Colorado, in which they have to work at this point. So I get the feeling like, maybe we'd be better off if it weren't federally legal until like 2020. Let's let Colorado and Washington build up their businesses. Let's let Oregon and Alaska build up their businesses. Let's legalize in California and Arizona and Nevada and a lot of the New England states, and let each of them build their marijuana brands and their marijuana industries. Maybe this provides us some insulation from the effect of big corporate takeover. And maybe by 2020, our own brands have gotten big enough to be able to fight for themselves against corporate takeover. And these brands, having been built from the ground up, largely with people in the marijuana industry or marijuana activism, maybe they grow with better ethics. Maybe they grow into more responsible corporations. I always like starting the week off with some unbridled optimism. Hey, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Until that time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you